We will now, in this second session, look a bit further into how EFSA works and VKM's role in the EFSA sphere. How can we, through our participation in VKM and Norwegian institutions, influence the priorities of EFSA? Are there possibilities? How does this work? And to give first the EFSA perspective on this, I would like to introduce Sergio Potier Rodeia, who is Community Management Team Leader in the Engagement and External Relations Unit of EFSA. He will tell us about the role of EFSA's Advisory Forum. So please, Sergio, if you are ready, you can start your presentation.
Thank you, Tori, and good morning to everyone. Just to check, can you hear me well?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so good morning to all, and just to mention that it's a pleasure for me to be here today and to share with you some information concerning the activities of the Advisory Forum, which is basically the body where at the strategic level thinking exchanges and decisions are made with regards to activities for the purpose of a joint collaboration between EFSA and the member states are agreed upon. I'll try to share my presentation. Let me know once it is visible to you.
Very good.
I'll try to put it on presentation mode now.
Excellent.
Can you confirm that you see it?
It's fine, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Tori. As I was anticipating, basically the focus of my presentation will be on the Advisory Forum. I would start by mentioning that the Advisory Forum is one of the two governance bodies that EFSA has. The Advisory Forum is established from its founding regulation and started to have activities and meetings already since 2002, since the inception of EFSA, and it's composed basically by representatives from all member states, Iceland and Norway, together with observers from Switzerland and the candidate countries, also from representatives with an observer status from the European Commission attend the Advisory Forum. The European Parliament is invited each time there's an Advisory Forum meeting, even though they normally do not attend the Advisory Forum. There are if one considers the main objectives of what we want to achieve with the Advisory Forum meetings, basically what we want is to exchange with the member states information, knowledge, and receive from the side of the member states advice to EFSA on its planning activities and also on the reporting of these activities. We seek advice on scientific matters, on its work program, and also on the priorities that it should focus on. The idea is that we discuss this and identify those common priority areas of activity. In the center of the slide, you will see that basically we move in the context of towards addressing four macro objectives. Basically, the promotion of networking at European level in between the competent organizations in the member states, but also between the organizations in EFSA, of course. And this takes quite a substantial part of the mandate of the Advisory Forum during the meetings, but also in between the meetings. It's important to highlight this. We do have also circumstances where there's the need for a strategic reflection and discussion in situations where there are emerging risks, even though obviously there are fora specialized forum in the context of EFSA that also dedicates to emerging risks. Sometimes there's a need for a more strategic discussion at the level of the advisory forum, so the topic is brought to the advisory forum. The forum is very much seen as, I would say, a place where member states and EFSA exchange, identify those common areas of work, and try to, as far as possible, pool their own resources and work together. This, from a resource perspective, leads to an economy of resources at European level, avoids the duplication of work. And another not less important goal that is achieved as a result of the activities of the forum is that the more we collaborate, the more we work together in planning our activities, the more we also avoid the occurrence of scientific divergence. I must add that, from a statistical perspective, scientific divergence, confirmed scientific divergence, does not occur that frequently, but it does have a high reputational and media impact whenever it occurs. Therefore, the importance of looking into it each time a potential signal for it occurs. Moving on. When we design the activities of the advisory forum as a whole, EFSA and the member states together, we obviously set them up in dialogue. And so whenever we are thinking, for example, about those activities and the topics that will come into the meetings, we normally share with the advisory forum ideas that we have for draft agendas or activities in between advisory forum meetings. This is one way of receiving the input from the members of the advisory forum. I would start on this slide maybe by the raw or the part on the bottom concerning the focal point operational framework, which has been established since 2008, and it is considered to be, let's say, the right arm of the advisory forum on the operationalization of the collaboration activities that are agreed at the level of the forum. One of them being the opportunity to share ahead of each meeting information concerning EFSA mandates and member state risk assessment plans. The focal points are very active in sharing information through a database of member state risk assessment plans, and we identify those that are more relevant, the EFSA mandates and also the member state risk assessment plans, and we bring them for discussion in each advisory forum meeting. It is a standing item, as we will see also on the next slide. The upper part of the slide concerns a more recently created body, which is the Advisory Forum Trio, and we felt the need for a more targeted consultation with the countries that host the presidency of the Council of the European Union. Those are the ones that make up the trio, the past, the current, and the future presidencies. And we agreed at the advisory forum level that they would take up the role of co-shaping the draft agendas of the advisory forum meeting together with EFSA. So there is this dialogue with the trio, and basically the trio, as a result of its operations, we also acknowledge that it was in a good position to advise us in the context of projects. We call them tailor-made activities, but let's keep it simple and call them projects that are basically agreed and prioritized to be funded through the focal point operational framework. And the Advisory Forum 3 also provides advice on the assessment of those proposals, on the prioritization and the relevance of those proposals that are submitted through the focal point operational framework. After this presentation, after my presentation, there will be a presentation also on the focal point operational framework, I think from the side of, from your side, from Norwegian side. So we will have the possibility to go into more details with regards to the focal point operational framework at that point in time. This is a rather dense slide. I wanted to bring the concept of the Advisory Forum into concrete substance, if I can use the word, and basically highlight the fact that normally in Advisory Forum meetings, with obviously some flexibility, we identify 6 macro areas where that come up as standing items, and you will see them there colored, starting with updates from Advisory Forum discussion groups, regular, feedback from the focal point operational framework, discussions on potential partnerships or feedback from rolling partnerships that have been in the meantime established. We also provide regular feedback at the level of the forum from the activities that are in the plan of the management board and in the plan of the scientific committee, and vice versa. We also bring the plan of of activities of the Advisory Forum to the management board and to the scientific committee. With regards to the member state risk assessment activities, starting at the planning stage, but also during the course of their implementation, we do have this database that provides this information. And as I mentioned before, there's a standing item looking into it. And there are other matters which are of a strategic and scientific nature that are brought into the agendas of the Advisory Forum, and they may not necessarily be impacting the activities of the Advisory Forum or focal points, but they may lead to actions at the level, for example, of the EFSA scientific networks. In order to make it more concrete, let me just highlight a couple of examples that I have on the slide, and then I will conclude my presentation, also for the sake of time. With regards to the discussion groups, I would like to highlight the good work delivered by the advisory group on data. There is an history on the focus of the Advisory Forum on data sharing and data harmonization. There were discussions there, and there was a task force at some point in time that produced a report with recommendations for activities, and the advisory group on data is basically following up on the implementation of those recommendations through different activities over time. This has also led actually to some of those activities being translated into focal point projects, as I was referring before. In the context also of the focal point operational framework, ideas that are discussed in the context of the Advisory Forum, like discussions on PFAS, a chemical substance which is very high up on the agenda. We can go back in time and note that back in March of 2023, there was a discussion at the level of the Advisory Forum, which led to the creation of a member state working group, led group. As a result of the planning of important activities in the area of PFAS, this led to the establishment of a focal point project that was basically funding and financing the activities of this working group and gathering ideas for future scientific activities. Two more examples under the concept of partnerships. Back in October of 2022, basically we had what we call a discussion on a sort of an umbrella topic regarding environmental risk assessment. methodologies. And basically what we wanted to agree upon at the level of the advisory forum was whether there would be the possibility to establish a sort of a partnership, which is sort of a more, from an engagement perspective, a stronger kind of relationship between EFSA and member state organizations in order to deliver on a particular work. And in March of 2023, together with the support of the member states, there were a series of grant calls that were presented to the advisory forum, and in the meantime 3 projects have already been financed by EFSA in this domain. One last reference to the last item at the bottom, just to illustrate how also activities at the level of the advisory forum may impact the activities of the scientific networks. There was, back in October of 2023, an advisory forum session on new genomic techniques, which actually was driven by an European Commission legislative proposal. And as a result of the discussions that were held in the context of the advisory forum, the conclusion was that there was a need for regular knowledge sharing and collaboration in the area of NGTs. This led the forum to recommend the establishment of an NGT subgroup that was established in March of 2024 under the GMO Scientific Network. I'll leave it there, Torre, in terms of, the concept of the advisory forum and the mandate of the advisory forum and examples of activities that we have been discussing and agreeing upon. I hope this is helpful. This is just examples. And I give the floor back to you, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have or the audience might have on this regard. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Sergio, for giving us that perspective on the advisory forum from the EFSA side.